What's going on, YouTubers? Welcome to another video. So today I wanted to talk about what are the top 3 best lines, in my opinion, to collect. Because there is like probably 30 different lines out there. I mean, heck, probably more. But I mean, lines, when I say that, I mean just like, for example, a Transformer line where everything in your collection is basically Transformers, or all you collect is Lord of the Rings. Like that's a line of mine. For me, if I think about my collection, what lines I have, they're kind of brought down into, each room. This room, you have the Lord of the Rings, you have Transformers, you have Monsterverse, and then, I mean, technically, you have a Ninja Turtles line, a World of Warcraft line, and then kind of one-offs. Technically, there's a Zelda line, just like a mini line. You have Jurassic Park or Jurassic World dinosaur statues. Here I kind of categorize this in 3. I have my Mortal Kombat line, my video game line, Dragon Ball Z. There's also countless other animes that do form lines, of course. Then you have my horror line, Alien and Predator, Terminator. That's what I would consider that. And then, of course, you got like the others like Game of Thrones. Here, 2 lines, Marvel, DC. So there's definitely pros and cons to each line. Some lines have way more statues than other lines. You have much better variety, in terms of like scales. You have 1/10, 1/6, 1/4, 1/3, half scale, life size bust, life size statue. Where other lines, there's not as much variety. A lot of people do tend to collect Marvel, DC. I would say that is definitely 2 of the biggest lines out there, in my opinion. Alien Predator, pretty big lines, horror, a lot of Transformer collectors out there, and so forth. So I'm actually about to dust my entire cave right now. It's been a hot minute ever since my injured hand. It's just difficult to hold that up for long periods of time on my wrist. But I feel good enough now where I can dust. So I'm going to spend 4 hours dusting. So let's go ahead and talk about now. I think 3 is too little. Let's make it 5. There's so many lines. 3 is too much. So we're going to have to do it 5 now. I'm going to try to base this not off my, because here's the thing. Lines have a deep meaning to like you in terms of your relationship to that IP. Like if you really love the Predator movies, then of course that's going to be your favorite IP and line to collect. So I want to base this off not my love to the franchise or IP, but instead my feeling towards the amount of statues available and the level of detail and the variety of the statues. So that is how I'm going to go ahead and base this, not off my love of IP. Because if I do my love of IP, I would say God of War. I would definitely gear more towards video game stuff than I would to movies, because I like video games more than movies. So I would say God of War is the best line ever made. But of course it's not. There's very few God of War statues out there. Probably like a total of 10 Kratos statues. And there's not a Zeus statue, and, Ares. There's so many missing characters that I could not possibly rank this as a top 5 best line, even if it's one of my favorite IPs. So we can't rank that. MK, I would not put top 5. There's not enough statues, not enough variety. I love MK and everything, but it's definitely not a top 5. There's just not enough statues out there. It's not being continued. So I would not rank that. So Dragon Ball Z is definitely up there as one of the top 5 in my opinion. I would probably put this as, let me think, number 3. We'll put this as number 3. Simply because there is so much variety. You have every day a new pre-order for a Dragon Ball Z statue. There's probably 50 different companies at this point. Now, in terms of really good companies, there's probably only like 5, but every day there is a new company, and sometimes they come out with killer products. For me, I'm sticking with really 3 companies: KD, Prime One, Sume. I feel those are the 3 best, but there's a lot of other great ones like Last Sleep, White Hole, MRC, and so forth, like companies like that. Their concepts are generally not my cup of tea, but a lot of people do like their statues. But I do think Dragon Ball Z, you have a ton of variety. There's a lot of life-size busts. There's a lot of 1/6, a lot of 1/4. You have lots of dioramas. You have pretty much every character out there, and lots of cool different concepts. So I think Dragon Ball Z is a great IP to collect. Dragon Ball Z has a huge, rich history, being around for 20 plus years, massive fan base. There's a lot of collectors out there for Dragon Ball Z, so I would definitely put this as one of the best IPs to collect. The statues are very vibrant, colorful, highly detailed, so I think they're a fantastic line to collect. Yeah, so Dragon Ball Z is definitely one of the best IPs to collect, in my opinion. When my buddy from work came over, he's never seen Dragon Ball Z, but you guys saw his reaction that, he was very impressed with this. He loved the vibrant colors and the cool scenes, you don't often see a statue like Sume Frieza shooting flying in air with that epic water effect, shooting a giant, energy death ball at someone. That is a really cool statue that you just don't see that when you look at other statues out there. So Dragon Ball Z is very unique, very colorful, and a great IP, for me, of course, it's very nostalgic, and I love the anime. I generally watch it every other year. I'll watch everything from Dragon Ball down to Dragon Ball Super. So I'll put Dragon Ball Z as my third favorite IP. Third best, not my favorite. We're not going to say favorite. Favorite's different. But that is number 3, in my opinion. Alrighty, folks. So number 5 is actually going to be Alien and Predator. Now, I put this at number 5 for several reasons. I mean, one, the statues are incredibly cool looking. They're incredibly detailed, and just very cool to look at. They're unique creatures, some of the coolest designs of aliens ever made. So that's one reason. Second, we are getting a pretty good variety at this point in terms of statues. You got Prime 1's 1/4 line. You have a 1/3 line as well by them. You have the old ECC, Wolf. There's an okay amount of bust, but the only truly great licensed bust is this. I feel like all the other licensed busts are very meh. But there's a lot of customs out there. Not as many as other IPs, but there's, some good customs. I got 2 right there. But these statues are incredibly cool looking. I still feel like there's a lot more that can be done in terms of AVP. And we are seeing more and more over the years, where I feel like for about 6 years, there was pretty much nothing. But I do feel like it is starting to pick up. We're getting more movies, which is good, which can mean more statues. But I do absolutely love Alien and Predator. They're just so incredibly cool. And there's a decent variety in terms of statues. Not as good as DBZ, for example, but I think there's good enough to definitely make it top 5. So I put that as number 5. Number 4, I'd actually do is horror. Horror is, as you know, my favorite, but I wouldn't necessarily put it as the best. I still think there needs to be better and more horror statues out there. For the most part, I'd say ECC dominates the 1/3 horror and horror in general. I wouldn't necessarily consider them horror, but Chucky, you got NECA, you got TOTS, my custom, tons of custom Chucky. So you're completely set when it comes to Chucky. You got plethora of 1/4 Jason and Freddy's. Ash, we're getting more. There's a continuation of horror, which is awesome. So it's a great line to collect in that sense, because PCS is making horror, Syndicate Collectibles is making horror. Every now and then, Prime 1's making horror. They got their 1/3 Megan statue coming out soon, which is awesome. And there's always horror movies, because horror movies are very cheap to make, and they can make a great money. They're a really good ROI for, studios out there. That's why there's constantly horror movies. They don't have to do a lot of CGI. It can usually be shot in 1 or 2 places. So, it's a great ROI. So I'm quite happy with the amount of horror statues. I do think there could be more, but we definitely have a very good selection. The characters are very unique and cool looking, and I love the concepts. For me, it's my personal favorite, but in terms of what I think is the best to collect, I wouldn't put it as the number 1. I think there is better, which we'll talk about. But yeah, horror is definitely a top 5 for me. And terms of what I think is the best to collect. So horror is number 4. So to reiterate, 5, 4, DBZ number 3. Alrighty, number 2, I'm going to put as Transformers. So Transformers, we've been getting a consistent amount of Transformers for the last 10 years. Prime 1 has been consistently giving us different versions of different characters. We now have 3 different Megatrons. We have tons of Optimus, several Bumblebees. We have life-size busts, like human life-size. Queen made their dioramas. You have dioramas, life-size busts, tons of different versions. These are technically not scaled, but I'd probably say they're, maybe 1/20th scale is my guess. But the thing with Transformers is individually, they are probably the most detailed statues out there. Now, even versus like a silicone J&D, I would still easily put this as a far superior statue for the same price. Like this is $3,000. You put J&D Wonder Woman, you put them side by side. This is far superior in my opinion as a statue. The little micro details is insane. They have crazy presence. They are so incredibly cool. And I know a lot of people aren't fans of the Michael Bay films, which to me still baffles my mind because I freaking love those movies. I absolutely love them. So I think that's one big reason people don't collect Transformers is they're just not a fan of the movies. So for me personally, I love the movies, so it does help. But in terms of statues, you cannot deny that they are the most detailed statues out there. They trump all my Alien, Predator, horror, anything else I own. These are the most detailed statues without a doubt. Now, and this Optimus in particular is my favorite statue. So I definitely think Transformers is one of the best lines to collect. There's tons of variety. They're the individually most detailed statues out there. Incredibly cool, big. So this is the coolest, for that sense. So this is number 2 in my opinion. Now, honorable mention, Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings I did not put as a top 5. I think it's getting there without a doubt. We still need more. I mean, the fact we don't even have a true Fellowship of the Rings in 1/4 scale is probably the number 1 reason I didn't put it in my list. It's one of the most crucial teams, and we still don't have a true 1/4 scale. There's been a severe lack of Lord of the Rings in 1/4. There's a ton of 1/6 from Weta, but I'm not the biggest fan of those. I much prefer larger scale Prime 1 style. So I'm a big fan of the Prime 1 line. I think it's one of the best things right now for 1/4. I'm loving the Infinity Studio bust, but there's still so many characters we don't have, good busts of. There is good in terms of 1/6, 1/10. We're getting many more 1/4. The 1/3, there's only one. There's a few good half scales by Infinity. So, I'd probably put this as number 6 on my list, Lord of the Rings. But there definitely needs to still be more. For how long the movies have been out and the lack we had for many, many years, and Sideshow PF line was the only thing we really had, along with Weta. I think there just could be more. But I definitely love Lord of the Rings. I'd put it as number 6 without a doubt. I just wish there was more. But it's absolutely getting there. So I'd definitely put that as number 6. But it just didn't quite cut my top 5 for me. And I'm sure you all can guess what number 1 is going to be, and that is Marvel/DC, or in general, superheroes. I do think this is the best to collect. First off, it has the most statues. So, and the most, scales and different lines. Whether you want 1/10 by Iron Studios, they have 50 plus Marvel and DC, probably more 100. You have 1/4, 1/3 life-size busts, and the best life-size busts. The fact you get all these silicone life-size busts makes this, absolutely insane. The variety is just crazy. There's a new superhero statue nearly weekly. And so, superhero statues are incredibly cool. Not quite as cool as some of the other lines like Alien, Predator, horror for me. However, the variety and the busts are the best, without a doubt. Thanos bust, he trumps every other line I've mentioned in terms of coolness factor. Like he beats them all. So this one just has the best variety, and it's overall like the best to collect, I would say. Especially if you're a huge fan of the movies, of course, which, I mean, how could you not be? Superhero movies are awesome. So I would say, this is the line that's going to continue pretty much forever. It seems like all Queen Infinity does pretty much is superhero. And if you think about Sideshow, the amount of superhero Batman, Supermans they do, it's just like endless. So this is the one thing that you will truly never run out of. Where horror, they may eventually stop doing horror. Transformers, they may stop doing, especially since the movies don't come out that often. So I would say this is the best to collect overall. It may not be my personal favorite in my collection, but it is the best to collect, no doubt. You cannot question that this has the most lines, the best available statues, the best future of statues coming, because superhero movies come out, you got 4 or 5 new superhero movies every year, and there's usually statues coming of each of them. So this is the best line overall to collect. Now, if I had to choose between Marvel and DC, that's a tough one just because I do love Marvel better. And here's the thing. DC, obviously you have the Snyderverse, but that's over. You have the new James Gunn universe coming. There's also comic, which is, a lot. I love my Marvel a ton. And we're, it's all connected. God, I mean, I might say DC. I would probably put DC above Marvel. Even though movie-wise, I think Marvel's overall much better, I think I would prefer DC overall. The Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, the 3 powerhouses. I mean, goodness gracious. It's so close, though. Like, if DC's 100, Marvel's 99.9 in terms of comparison. But yeah, that is what I would put as my top. I mean, really 6 is how I list it. 6 best lines to collect. Let me know what you think is the best line. Not necessarily your favorite, but which one do you think is the best to collect overall? Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Have a great day.